trying out a new platform. So I'll see what this gives. And I'm going to sneeze in a minute here, but maybe not. So today we are, okay, let me do something here for setting up. We're almost there. Okay, I'm getting ready. Hi, Catherine. Welcome in. I'm trying out a new platform, so just getting started. And I know there's a couple people who want to join in, but we'll kind of get started. I have no idea. Hey, there's Bhavna. Uh, hopefully not in too much pain over there. But anyway, so here we are for Canada. I was setting up the space, and it was just this kind of white, kind of silent, kind of the silence where you're out the vast open plains. It's all snow covered, and there's just kind of this soft sound of the wind blowing in the background over the snow. So that's Canada. That's the way Canada was coming in. Uh, so this would be a really interesting clearing. I'm starting to get a sense of some of the things that will pertain here. So we'll see how it comes up. But it was interesting because the word terrorism came up, and we think of terrorism more kind of like a modern day uh, concept, war concept, um, but it's been happening for eons. And there's my other buddy, Kayla. All my buddies are here. Well, half of my buddies are here. So nice to see everybody. And I don't know who else is, if anybody's showing up on Facebook, because I'm doing this via Restream, a very handy little platform if you haven't tried it out for streaming to more than one platform at a time. So if I did this right, this is going to be going on YouTube as well as Facebook and Instagram Live over here. Yay. Yes, hey. So, okay, so let's get started for this, and let's everybody just kind of come into your physical being, your physical space, getting settled in that first, getting anchored and grounded into that first. So let's just take a moment to focus on that. And I'm going to focus on getting everybody grounded. What's really coming up for me in the sessions that I do for people is that we have to go in even more deeply with the grounding. You know, we think we're hitting core of the earth, and we have to now start reaching a little bit deeper. And it's not that we weren't reaching deeper before, but it's that as we move higher, as we move into higher levels, we have to come into more precision for ourselves in what we are doing to actually kind of get the results that we are thinking we're getting. So I'm going to just stretch everybody down, this grounding down. So a lot of shifting, little shifts happening there as I jerk around. That's just a shift happening. I'm going to just pull it down a little bit further down. Yeah, we're getting there. So keep taking a nice deep breath in, just focusing on your physical body and that core channel or your spine. And coming in for a landing into that core of the earth. Boy, that's really interesting. That's just kind of slowing down, and it's really like a soft, gentle landing. There we go. Okay, that's good. That's good. So breathing in from the core of the earth and bringing up those fresh, refreshed frequencies, filling your body up. and filling up this space too for Canada. I had a nice little kind of some kind of upgrade or something yesterday, but I was kind of felt myself kind of like this glowing golden ball all day. Um, so that was an interesting experience in a really nice frame uh, place to be. But anyway, so bringing in those fresh frequencies, yeah, opening up the space for Canada and opening up the space for our participants, our viewers. Let's see how they're showing up. It's kind of showing up as a little bubble here, but I want to clear up your bubble a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just to bring it into a higher level. There we go. Yeah, very nice. There we go. Opening up, and that's causing the space to open up even more for Canada. And wow, that's coming in very strongly. And it's like this half sphere that I see, and of course the other half is into the earth here. That's covering Canada, and of course it's since the boundaries aren't cervical, spherical. Sorry, um, it's going into the U.S. some. That's really interesting because it's obviously the sphere, the top half of the sphere where it's landing on the map is going over into the States, but then there's that clear line of where Canada is, where the United States is. You know, yeah, maybe we need to do the United States, but I'm waiting for somebody to suggest that because it's like it's a mess. Okay. So Canada, it's interesting because Canada has made this very distinct line for itself for this clearing. It's like this is it. This is as far as we're going. It's I don't know if that's a political statement of any kind, but it's very interesting that it's showing up that way, and very distinct, holding that line. We do not want to be seen like Americans. So yes, that is a cultural piece because since we Americans and Canadians sound very similar overseas when they're traveling overseas with the accent, it's fairly similar that Canadians have gone through this process of when they're traveling overseas, and I've known some overseas. I've met some overseas, and it's like they have the Canadian flag on their knapsacks to identify that they're not American. Very specifically, they're not American. So I think that's my sense of why this boundary is showing up really clearly. It's like we are not Americans. We're Canadians. And it is a different culture. It is a different people. And let's see, it's going all the way up to the Arctic Circle, pretty close up there. It's a big landmass, actually, which is kind of more broken down as we get to the north. And it's interesting because it feels like Alaska is actually going to be included in that in this sphere, maybe because they're a lot more similar to Canadians up there than to Americans. Alaska's got a very interesting feel. When I was there in the intercoastal as well as a little bit in the Homer area, there's a very reclusiveness feeling up there, and part of it is the land. And so I feel that in the northern part of Canada, where it's very reclusive, it because of the land, because there's very few people up there, and so you go up there and you kind of get lost to the rest of the world, just because the way the nature is. So let's see as we get started on this. So yeah, it's interesting. There's kind of a divide that's showing up. That's probably for my geography of the United States. I don't know the geography of Canada very well, except to Quebec and that side and Vancouver. That's about the only things I really know of Canada. It's more like just west of the Great Lakes area, but into Canada, it's like there's something going on. It's like there's a rift there. So we'll start by clearing that up. It's this weird feeling. Feels like it just drops into the depths of I don't know what. Oh, okay, that's starting to clear out here. Uh, so I'm getting drawn over to the east side, um, southeast side of Canada, so where there's a lot of population there, and I know a little bit of the history there, and so it's coming to mind with Quebec and uh, the terrorism that is part of the history there between the English and the French, the British and the French. A lot of bad stuff happening. Ooh, there, yes, back in the pre 1900s. Um, things like people, the French, well, a lot of poor, of course, came over, but one of the history pieces around Quebec of why they're so staunch with their culture and their language is not to give them an excuse, but it's is from the history, some of the history that came up, Native Americans. It's coming up too, but things like the people getting rounded up in churches and then churches getting burned to the ground, and that was not the only place in the world that's been used. But that kind of terrorism to try to subjugate people, and I see a lot. There's a lot of stuff coming up with the Native Americans too, with that kind of terrorism and trying to annihilate a group. So let's clear that history up. Haven't seen, well, that's probably going to start up as soon as I say, but up to this point, haven't seen any like dead people coming out of the ground yet, like there has been in other places where that kind of came up almost immediately at the beginning. It's still really quiet. There's a sense of what feels like suspicion, but that's not the right word, where there's people are just waiting to see what's going to happen here. Um, so that's probably due to that terrorism piece. It feels a little odd for me to say terrorism, but that's basically really what it was. Even if it's on a small scale, village to village, family to family kind of thing, of this oppression and not just God, it's not just mental physical oppression. It's literally killing people because of who they were. Because so I have a sense of a lot of that happening when Europeans started coming over and wanting to take the land and wanting to establish their fortunes, and not just poor people, but they were like the companies behind in Europe pushing for that, take care of business any way you want. And there was no way to really stop people out there because it's the vastness of the lands. People are just out there, I mean, it might take months to find somebody. So it just happened. And there's a sense of God, it almost feels like it was kind of people getting possessed by errant frequencies of entities that were just roving around. And there's like weird stories, not necessarily real stories, but storylines and movies like from the east, on the East Coast, like with the Pilgrims and stuff like that, of that era of just giving me the sense of like these errant frequencies. I've heard that from the Amazon too, and just kind of like grabbing onto people and taking people over and messing with people, pushing them around, making them do things that probably normally they wouldn't have done. Getting possessing people. There we go. There's the word. So there's a sense of that in this vast wilderness. Part of that is because there's so much emptiness that people are surrounded with. I mean, it's nature, so it's that emptiness of nature and getting really pushed to that extreme in terms of all their internal stuff. Maybe it wasn't just these floating entities in that were just roaming around and that were just waiting to hook on to somebody, but it's people who are so immersed in that purity of nature that they kind of go a little crazy because of the internal programming and stuff that they have. So a lot of shifting of that. Okay, there's starting to be a circle that's starting to form. And that feels like that's the native culture. That's starting to form, at least on the bottom side for me, because it's on the south side of Canada, where the sphere is around Canada. It's like this line of people. I see people dressed in native garb. I just happen to recognize it, native garb, like the pelts and the buckskin clothing kind of thing. So they're starting to form as this is clearing. Okay, so this is what I'm starting to see is like this. What I was seeing is all white at the beginning. That's starting to move back. So it's starting to get a lot of more clarity on the land as it's coming through. So everybody take a nice deep breath in. This is part of the clearing. You guys just are really a function of the clearing by participating and really come into that core essence, to your spine if you're not familiar with core essence, but they're right there with each other. So and really breathing into that, coming into that for yourself and holding that. Yeah, real good. Okay, yeah, very nice. Oh, light you up a little bit more there. Yeah. And yeah, very good. Okay. So yeah, that just helped clear it out a whole lot of stuff. It's so interesting because that started coming up with whoever joins up and people coming into their core essence, and that creating this vibration, this higher vibration that helps to just clear things out. So this is really a group effort. I'm kind of facilitating these, and it really becomes a group effort, pushing, more distortions being released. And I'm kind of hearing is like it's distance. It's very light. It's not very loud. It just this really distant, soft, distant sound of Native American song and drumming. And a sense that these people, for them, these people, the land is them, in a very deep way. Given how long they've been there, it makes sense. And so they've been holding that culture. These people have been holding that land very strongly, just until there's this change in the world and existence, so that oh wow, that land. Yeah. for the land to be free again. And what's coming up here is I'm seeing blood running. It's like a river of blood that's what something happened in that area. My God, it's coming back to that same area I saw at the beginning. Oh, and it's this river of blood coming out, and it's that middle area of Canada. So it's the slaughter. It's about this. The slaughter of people, children, people of all ages. Oh God, yeah, man, including fetuses, including those who are still in the womb. So take a nice deep breath in, really focusing on that core essence for the participants here. Coming back into that purity, releasing all of that past, all of the pain, all of the suffering of the past. Pushing all of that away. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, that just kind of needed to quickly be acknowledged. And now it's like, okay, now we just want to let go of all the stuff. It's that sense that, just needing to be heard, just needing to know that we know. And now it's just all getting released. Oof, that was pretty heavy. That was unexpected. So coming back into, yeah, bringing back that purity of the land, the purity of the culture. So this is really focusing on the Native culture, Native American culture. The first people, as they call themselves. Who knows? Who knows who was first? Because there could have been people from before then that we just don't know about from way, way before. But they're really the first for kind of more modern history, so to speak. Ugh. And so this is really focused on their culture. This is releasing a lot of distortions from that culture. And culture as a general term, because there were a lot of different groups that had their own little flavors of culture. And culture, so I just want to bring up that a little bit of a definition of culture in that pure sense. For me, it's along the lines of what a group of people decide to do together as a way of celebrating life, of celebrating existence, of celebrating, being in life. And some of that comes into a celebration of the land that they're with, and that where they live, and honoring the land and all that. So this is coming through pretty strongly with this here. So it's interesting because it's smack in the middle of Canada, pretty close to the border. So it might not be exactly in the middle of the parameters of Canada, but it's not West Coast or East Coast. This is like smack in the middle. And that clearing is starting to spread from that and pushing back on the west coast and east coast. Um, and it's really interesting because it feels like it's taking a dominant. It's becoming a dominant force. So let's see what's going on with that. I'm being a little cautious with that dominant because then that's kind of that can easily turn into oppression of another group. Um, so it's softening. Now that I've said that, it's just kind of softening and flowing out over there. But there is a way in which, from that center, there's this expansion, there's this flow that's happening, and it's very light blue, bluish white in that center. And there's just kind of these waves that are moving out from there and clearing up as we go. Okay, there's something going on over here. I don't know if there's some mass graves over to the west of that, or a mass grave from, again, going back in time, maybe like the 1800s or something. Something happened there. And I'm not sure where it is, but it's like center of Canada, west coast is over here, so somewhere in between the center and the west coast. So clearing whatever that was up. But it's like images of skulls and human bones. And it might not have been a big mass grave, like, billions of people, but you take a whole village and put them in one place, even if it's only 20 people, it's the whole village. That's a mass grave. Um, so not in numbers by modern definition, but a lot of crazy stuff going on. My God. All right. This is really interesting that I haven't seen kind of dead people coming out yet. There's a little bit of that, actually. I take that back. Now there's starting to be a very few coming up. Oh my God, this is interesting. So I'm seeing this circle of people here. And what I'm noticing is that these people actually look like they're kind of more living people, because there's the definition that I see. It's like there's kind of color, and there's more precision. And usually dead people or spirits, I see it's like kind of more wispy, like a whitish blue kind of color, or grayish blue, white, um, color. So I was didn't really classify these as, or didn't register for me as dead people in this bottom line circle. But what's happening is that this is actually, I'm seeing the spirits rising out of those people. So let's see, was it people who died and know they had died, or people were just holding on to transition? Kind of a little bit of both, actually. So people, yeah, that's interesting. Almost kind of the sense of they died, but they were just kind of kept holding on until it was better times to transition completely. I don't know. That's kind of wacky sounding, but I don't know. So that's releasing a lot of, oh, okay, a lot of distortion. So the reason I was still seeing them as people is because the distortions they were still holding on to, and that's releasing out, so that the spirits are now able to clear out of there. So good. Okay. And that circle is spreading out. And so now, from the center again and expanding out, there's this liveliness that's starting to come through, where I'm starting to see the liveliness, the green, and the vitality and the abundance of nature coming through, from the center and kind of spreading out. So it needs to be spreading out more easily towards the north. There's probably a lot less activity going. Oh, we're going to have to go up to the waters up there. There's stuff with oil spill stuff up there, modern day. Okay. Get there and back in a minute. And in that Arctic area. Um, and that's starting to spread out so that the distortion is just getting pushed back and pushed out. All right, so up in those little waterways up there, yeah. Now we're getting into the more of the land and the wildlife, and like I see seals and polar bears, and there's stuff with oil spill up there. So let's clear that out. That's our responsibility. It's our trash. It's pick up trash to time here for in nature. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's helping. Yeah, and that all the way to God. Well, that's going across the land. That's going across this oil spill stuff. Energy, kind of going across into Alaska. Can't remember where the Exxon Valdez was. I know it was somewhere over there. Story. I don't know if this is true, but I knew somebody who was a captain on private yachts, and he said he knew the captain of the Exxon Valdez, and that all the stories that were put out there in terms of whose fault it wasn't the captain's. He was set up. It was the company that fucked up, and of course, the problem is that with captains is that it's still their responsibility. So if he chose to, if he knew about something that the company was doing and he still chose to run the ship, it's his ship kind of thing. But that in the truth, in the bottom line was that. Okay, I just saw your message. Hold on a second. Bhavna, I'll get to you in a minute. I just saw it. So it was really the kind of the company stuff, but he also chose to be captain of that ship, so it's also his responsibility. So, in other words, the information that the company was putting out there was not correct. They weren't accepting their liability. Okay. Yeah, I will get to that in a minute, Bhavna. Bhavna has asked me if I am able to pick up on spirits on her home property or around. So let me focus on the greater picture first. Ugh. Yeah, there's some weird stuff. It's showing up now that I've said that. It's like kind of showing up. So I don't know if it's your property per se, but it's in kind of the neighborhood you live in. So we'll see if we can do a little clearing for you on that area. So fine tuning here that's going on. Let's get way up that north part. Oof, kind of getting over towards the Arctic area. Waste from boats. My God, that's like so bizarre. I wasn't expecting that one either, but yeah, waste from boats. So not just oil spills, but just all the garbage that not just the crap that gets dumped into the water because they're out in the middle of the water and it'll just float away. We don't have to deal with it. God, it'd be great if somebody could come up with some design so that all the waste on a boat is recycled and reused somehow, or I don't know what, but turned into fuel. God knows what could be done with that. But wouldn't that be cool? So nothing gets dumped into the waterways. There's a new concept for us. Okay. Okay, everybody taking a nice deep breath in. We're kind of hitting this other layer to clear up. So deeper layer from the ground has, and I see now I'm seeing the whole map of Canada. So it's like layer. This is happening in layers. So now we've hit another deeper layer. Um, and it's not clear yet what this whole layer is about, but it's like it's like seeing a mud map of Canada. So everybody take a nice deep breath in. Yeah, there we go. Back into that core, anchoring more deeply into that core. Yeah, there we go. Ooh. And that is helping, yeah, that whole vibrational level of that whole area is shifting. So all that mud, which is basically just distortion, that's how I see distortion. So one of the ways that's clearing out. Hmm. Wow, that's okay. What was that about? Because now it's like starting to bring up like kind of this cheer from people. People, okay, so this is something that's been burdening people in Canada. God, okay. So different pieces. There's this whole thing about being polite. Um, been a lot of women native that go missing. Can we delete that frequency? Okay, we'll work on that. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Um, oh, that's a slavery thing. Wow. Yeah, they're getting some of them are getting abducted into slave trade. Ooh, all right. Let me finish what's going on over here. So this heaviness on people from this politeness, this uh, and that there's a religious paradigm behind that. We have to be good and just wow, Catholic especially, but Christian in general. Um, so the Protestants aren't out of that one. Um, So religious paradigm. All right, let's see what we can do about shifting that. So what's coming up, Bob knows this is clearing around the Native women who are going missing, and that there's this piece that connects up to slavery. Is what we can do is we can't really clear it up completely because that starts to get into individual bases, but we can. It's like we can kind of bring clearing to a general level around abuse because that's an abuse patterning, and that ties into slavery. So that's kind of an extreme form of abuse, a control domination kind of combo. Um, so that's not necessarily going to take care of the individuals, but kind of at more this layer we can take off this layer from the whole the general picture of Canada kind of thing. And so that starts opening up the doorway for individuals to kind of go, wake up. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to go through this. Or I can, kind of waking up and saying, I want to step out of this before it happens to them. Yeah, they've been shipped all over the world. They've been shipped far away from that. Yeah, gruesome stuff. Some of them have been basically tortured to death. Violence in those communities. Yeah, well, the violence, yeah, so there's abuse. There's, yeah, that's very, a lot of abuse in those communities in the US too. And that's a real disconnection. So we get back into that disconnection with that sense of self and sense of who they are. And as a people, generally speaking, there's been a lot that has been done over the centuries now to really cut them off and do everything they can. The government and governing forces, or quote unquote governing the forces that had the more force to really take over. So that's a form of torture, basically, which is abuse. So, all right. Everybody kind of take a deep breath in to your and really come into that core essence of your being and keeping that awareness on your physical body, your physical surroundings at the same time. So I'm going to focus on removing that general layer of abuse ah, from the whole. Um, then that will help to individuals to become more aware, have more ease in becoming aware of that pattern. Wow, that's a big, thick layer. So just kind of collecting that up and really just staying grounded in your bodies, in your physical environment, in your core essence, your spine, your core essence, in your being. And holding that really strongly for yourselves as I do this. Because that acts as you doing that acts as a guiding force, as a guiding light for all those who need that guidance. Okay. Still working on that, so keep focusing on that, your core essence there. You guys are just acting like light beams to show the way for people, so that's really cool. Okay, shrinking it up. Till it's completely gone. We're still working on that, so it's not going quickly, but it's better to take our time, go at a steady pace than try to like just clear it out all at once. Maybe Moss would be able to do that one snap of his fingers, but I'm not quite there yet. Working on that, like we all are. Okay, it's almost gone. So keep focusing on that. Yeah. Oh God, you guys are really people are noticing your light. I'll get to that in a minute, but keep focusing on that core essence, your strength, your physical beings, your strength, the purity of your essence. Yep, yep. Almost there. Starting to turn into dust. Okay, pretty close. We're close. It's just this really thin piece of thin line that I'm holding between my hands. That's dissipating. Dissolving, still dissolving. This is taking a little bit of time, but there's a lot of that. That was a very dominant force. Oh, in Canada. It's funny, didn't think that would be so heavy in Canada. Yep, almost there. Like it's the last pieces are just popping. Ah, okay. Wow, that was a big chunk. Um, Coming up is all the different moral values that help people differentiate who they are. Yeah, that's part of the culture. Um, so good point to bring up that that's basically part of the culture, cultural norms. So when we move into that higher consciousness, it's those differences, you know, different rules applying to different people thing that is of a lower consciousness. So that's going to be shifting because moving into that this higher consciousness. So let's see, do we do anything about that right now? I have to let that sit actually. Yeah, so there's been kind of the general address of the culture, and as people move into a higher state of consciousness, so that will happen. That piece will start to fall into place uh, over over time as we move more into this new consciousness and more things get cleared up. Um, there's kind of that piece right now that is staying in place because people have their lessons that they need to learn. I hate to put it that way. That's just the easiest way to put it, but they have to come to that understanding for themselves. So we can't just clear it all out and be done. People have to take responsibility for themselves. So when they come into those differences, that they need to step up to the plate for that. So that's that piece. But yeah, good to bring it up. So okay, very nice, and now it's starting to look like spring in Canada over here. Yeah, singing and dancing, so that's good. So this is obviously happening at a higher level. So at the physical level, might not see these tangible results yet, but what that does is that lightens up the collective load, so to speak, and helps to make it easier to clear. Some people are, to varying degrees, more sensitive with regards to this. Um, what did I just say? This collective piece. Individuals, there's some individuals who are very sensitive to that, some less, and some not at all to this collective piece. But having shifted kind of more at the collective level, uh, it helps to make it easier for individuals to shift out. So Canada is looking very nice and bright. I'm going to push back these borders because at the borders now, I don't know if this is the United States. There's a lot of dark stuff that's just up against the. Well, it's not just the United States. There's some of that, but it's also kind of the historical pieces because that um, takes it back to other places. So actually, let's kind of connect up, clear up those connections, that lineage, that historical lineage. There we go. So it's not family, it's not necessarily culture, but that historical lineage from what's happened in history. Yeah, there we go. That was cool. So that's lightening up. And that's helping to clear up that line back. And that goes, wow, that goes to a lot of places, back and forth. So to Canada, but also from Canada. Yeah, okay, Bhavna. So getting back into your neighborhood in the Toronto area. I think Toronto's got some odd stuff going on in general. Let's see if we can do a little bit more specific clearing for Toronto. That's kind of like, this goes back to this kind of being the British capital of when Canada was in this British French mayhem. So bad stuff with that. Bad juju with that. So clearing that up. Yeah, and that's actually going in. So yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's connecting up to with the United States in, or that historical connection of back in uh, 17 the 1600s, also as far back as that, maybe not so much earlier, not too much, but 1700s, of that, all those wars and trying to conquer other more land for back the ruling the ruling parties in other locations. So that's part of that bad juju. Clearing up the waterways, the St. Lawrence Seaway. I would like to start doing, well, we did the Pacific Ocean, so we'll do the oceans, but also I would like to do more kind of clearing of nature masses, like the Amazon, for example. So and focus on that picking up of human waste from nature. So doing our garbage cleanup. So if anybody has anything that pops in mind, it's like, oh, we should do this area. Let me know. It was amazing. It was amazing to do the Pacific Ocean. It's just amazing at the end and receiving that gift of that consciousness coming in and just infusing us. So that was really beautiful. Honoring nature and nature honoring us when we step up to the plate for ourselves, for nature. There we go. Okay, Canada looking pretty much better now. So it looks very bright. It looks very lively. Um, it feels lively. It sounds lively. What is going on here? What is this about? Hold on a minute. Stretching that boundary out. It's interesting because that boundary thing that was kind of coming up at the beginning with the Canadians going, yeah, we're Canadians. Really had a way of creating a really a very definite fence. And so it's interesting because I'm seeing this boundary. Actually, there's two layers of that are moving out. So it's like, okay, you don't need to do this anymore. You can open yourselves up to being something new, being something different, still being Canadian, being strong in your own identity. There we go. This is for all of us. Being strong in your own identity, clear of who you are within. And then you don't need to push that and really make sure everybody knows that. Oh, mountains, yeah. Yeah, mountains, and if you have a specific, like, group of mountains, for example, that'd be great, yeah. Immigration Canada, I feel people will stick to what they know. Yes, and yes, well, that happened, yes, absolutely. It's what I've seen happen. Okay, where was I talking? So, yeah, coming into that purity of our beings, coming into that purity of our essence, and knowing that strongly within ourselves so that we don't have to go and, like, push it in other people's faces to hold on to it. So yeah, Bhavna, that I've seen that everywhere. I've seen that worldwide, everywhere I've lived, and I've lived in 5 different regions of the world, different countries, and what I've seen happen with foreigners coming into a country, immigrants, is that they will hold on to their culture, generally speaking, 10 times more than people who live in that culture. And really push their culture. I saw this, well, I really saw this in a bad way in Armenia. Love my Armenian friends. But there was a very strong difference between the Armenians living in Armenia and the diaspora Armenians. And the diaspora Armenians come from a background of basically having been massacred in about 1918, 1919, around that time, in the Turkey, in that area. And so a lot of people left from there and holding on to their cultures. And there were some funny things that would happen because you'd have the diaspora Armenians when I was there at the American University. We'd have these parties and the remember our American Armenians where it's like, "Well, come on, let's dance," and doing these folk dances, and the Armenians from Armenia were saying, yeah, we don't do that." So there's a way that people, because they go so far away from their country and they're doing it because they can't work in their own country, can't find work, it's money, it's whatever, and they really hold on to their culture even more. And so that's sticking to what they know. And it's like, no, we're really going to get anchored in here instead of finding a way to open up. I feel really lucky because my parents being French coming over to the States, we did not live in a French community. We were basically the only ones there. There were some odds and ends of French people around. It's not like we hung up with them all the time constantly. So I feel lucky that way because we kind of were integrated more into the culture, even though my parents would say, "Oh, it's so much better in France." That was, and just as their way of, trying to maintain their culture. But so that's a human issue globally, wherever there's any kind of immigrants, no matter what. So anyway, so yeah, we've got about 4 minutes for Instagram, and want to thank everybody for showing up. If you have any thoughts about where to go, like the Amazon's one, who knows? Maybe the Sahara might be a really interesting place to clean up. But that does include countries and cultures. There's a lot of cool cultures there, but focusing, and we will kind of continue with the oceans, focusing on the oceans. And yeah, there's the poles, the areas of the North and South Pole also to cover, as well, kind of in those nature areas. So any of those come to mind for you? Can we do Istanbul? Yeah, Turkey, Europe, and Asia. Where yeah, Istanbul would be Turkey, but that might be an area to do. Um, so rural communities across the world is for me is a little too dispersed because every rural community has its own flavor and its own culture. So that starts to be a little too kind of spread out. But when we work in a yeah, yeah, I got you. Meant Turkey, yes. But Istanbul is Turkey, right? So when we work on a country, it's going to take everything that's there. So rural communities and nature areas. I'm thinking Amazon. Yeah, so Amazon is really it's kind of showing up for me too. Mount Everest. So that would not be just Mount Everest, but it would be that whole area, which is yeah. There's a lot of weird things, political things that have been going on over there for a bit. But that would be kind of interesting and really focusing on the nature, on nature itself. So when it's a landmass, it kind of gets a little tricky because then we're really kind of getting into cultures. In the Pacific Ocean, it's like we can really focus on the ocean. Of course, there's a lot of countries that are out in the Pacific, so that starts kind of pulling them in. Um, uh, yeah, deforestation, slaughter of animals. So that might be, yeah, down. So at this point, yeah, that could be a type of focus. And for now, I'm kind of, yeah, we'll put that as a possibility. But focusing on specific areas makes it a little easier than kind of a general theme that runs all over the world, kind of thing. But thank you all for showing up. Another fun adventure into Canada and brought up some things that I wasn't expecting with Canada. So thank you all for showing up. And until next week, we'll see what we do next week. And enjoy the rest of your week. All right. Bye, everybody. Oops. And on air. Now I've got to figure out how to close up. Oh, finish. Here we go. There's the finish button.